tonight Kelley Sloane. I'll let Kelley do most of the talking of her background. I've actually just gotten to know Kelley here in the last few months, kind of known about her, but hadn't had the chance to meet her. Kelley is actually from Lexington natively. Career took her off. She came back though to Kentucky and ended up being one of the early employees at Exstream Software, which if a lot of you know the Exstream Software story. They started in 98, 99 time frame, sold 10 years later to HP for lots and lots of money. Kelley was there that whole time, ran the marketing group, and she stayed with HP until just this past May, and now she's kind of a consulting company doing all that work. So we've asked Kelley to come and talk about that experience of being employee 10 or so? 15. Out of, when they exited, it was probably
3 to 14.
3 to 14. So early stage, but running that marketing effort and what it took to get that company to where they took it and before HP acquired it. So welcome, Kelley Sloane.
Last week, well, he said we've known each other for a couple of months now, and we were having lunch, and he was telling me about the lecture series and asked me if I would tell the Extreme story. And so it feels like it's been forever ago. We used to count extreme years in dog years. So for every year, we would feel like it was 7 years. So it feels like it was 100 years ago when we started. But it was great to go back and remember. I was just telling Kim McBride all of the things we did. So hopefully tonight I'll be able to share some of those experiences, some of the key principles that we used in the business. Had just the opportunity to work with and for some of the most brilliant people I've ever been around. And so tonight I want to share some of that with you. A couple of those brilliant people are here in the audience, by the way. There may be others. So Chris Hines, well, probably many of you know Chris. Chris was started well before I did, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But Chris was the head architect, head of all of the development of the Extreme Software product called Dialogue. And then Kim McBride is here. Kim was many of you probably know Kim. Kim was the owner of Williams McBride, graphics design firm here in town, and so she was key to our success. Is anybody else here from Extreme that I just missed maybe when you came in? Oh, hey! How you doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for coming. Well, Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope you have a successful one. So let's just jump in and start out. And I guess I need to point it this way. This is going to work. So I want to start off with this. I just read this article in Harvard Business Review. I love HBR, and some of you may have seen this if you read that, but I thought this was interesting for you because I know most of you are entrepreneurs here or in a startup or looking to be an entrepreneur. And there was a quote, not a quote, but a statistic that 18 of the 30 companies currently on the Dow were started during economic downturns. And we're clearly in one. Hopefully this year we're going to be coming out of it more and more. But what an incredibly great opportunity. And that's what this article was actually about. It was called Finding Competitive Advantage in Adversity. So the whole tenet of the article was about how this is the best time to be an entrepreneur and to start out new endeavors. It's also, of course, means that you have a lot of competition, and certainly execution will be key in that. So, as I said before, hopefully I can share with you some things tonight that we did at Extreme that might help you as you go forward. Let me start off and just tell you a little bit more about myself. I don't want to get into too much depth here, but Randall did a good job of giving the summary of it. I'm a Lexingtonian. I went to UK, and my start was in technology, in computer science. So I'm actually not a marketing person by education anyway, more by experience and learning. But I got my foundation at UK with computer science. Started my career out of school at GE Lighting in Cleveland. Went into an information systems management program there, and then after that program, was able to start in with what was really kind of the forefront of electronic commerce at that time, called electronic data interchange. Some of you may remember that. Some of you probably have never heard of EDI, but that was a great opportunity for me, and it allowed me to, well, what I did on the team was develop the company's first electronic invoicing system. We also developed an electronic payment system, but people weren't really ready to get to that point first. But I was able to go out and spend time with financial executives, meeting with customers like Chrysler and Walmart, and to try and convince them to come onto our system. And from that point on, I was like, you know, that's my path. I really want to be out in front and working with customers. So I moved to Rockville, Maryland, kind of made a circle around the East Coast, to another GE business called GE Information Services. Got into pre-sales and product management there, still working with EDI. Left there after about 5 years and went to a software company called InterSolve at the time, about a mid-size type software company. But I was hired into corporate communications there. I was hired specifically to start out the industry analyst relations and research. But I learned a lot about PR. I sat along with the PR and media folks. And I went to a company called Bond in Reston, Virginia, which competed with SAP. Some of you may remember Bond. Unfortunately, Bond made some bad decisions and things started going south. So at that point, I had been away for 16 and a half years. I really wanted to come back to Lexington. All I knew that was here was Lexmark and DataBeam. Couldn't get through Lee Todd's administrator at DataBeam. Didn't really want to go to another big company. After the InterSolve experience and the software, I really wanted to kind of stay in that if I could. And I was looking around, and Randall and I talked about it. At least back then, it was difficult to figure out what was really going on here. I talked to some recruiters, but one day my mother calls me and says, "Kelley, this is probably nothing, but there's one line in the paper today, in the want ads. Marketing manager, Exstream software." And that's all it said, in a web address. So I didn't even pay that much attention right away, and then I went on, and here was this website that talked all about customer relationship management, or CRM, which was really starting to come about. Now this is in late 1999 now, so the internet, the whole .com era is in full swing, longer story short, I ended up within a month. I was able to, after some fierce negotiation and a $30,000 pay cut, come back and start up with Exstream for some stock options, and convince the founders to let me run the whole marketing instead of just being a marketing manager. And then, as Randall said, we were acquired. Exstream was acquired by Hewlett-Packard in March of 2008. So from there, let me get right to Exstream and tell you about the founders, the co-founders of Exstream, Davis Marksberry and Dan Kloiber. They are both engineers by education. Davis graduated from UK, and Dan graduated from Cornell. Both of them went to Shell Oil in Houston, Texas after they graduated, and that's where they met. So right out of school, they're developing simulation software for what impact icebergs would have if they hit oil rigs in the ocean. So some pretty sophisticated stuff right out of the chute. And they did that for a few years. Davis, though, is probably even more so than Dan, although both of them have, entrepreneurship in their veins. Davis is from Lexington. He wanted to come back here and get started in his own thing. So he did at the ripe old age of 26. And his dad was working at IBM. He went there specifically, though, to spin off a company called PDR. And PDR was actually the first of the 3 companies that Davis and Dan were partners on, with Exstream being the 3rd. So I'll come back around to PDR because it's kind of important to the whole story of what they learned when they were in that business. But before I go there, and if I didn't mention this, Davis asked Dan to come back and work with him and be a partner of his at PDR. And so that's when they started together as a 50-50 partnership. Both of them, one of the things that's really unique is each of them has this really unique blend of technical and business acumen. And they're both strong on both sides, but where one's maybe a little stronger on one part of that, the other one seems to pick up the other part of it, and vice versa. So the other thing is this compatible partnership, and I think this is a really key point for you as you think about, and I know a lot of you have already chosen partners to start your company with, or you're looking for one, but one of the things that Davis always talked about is how important trust is. Of course, trust is key in any relationship that's going to work. But they had beyond their friendship and their respect for each other, they had this trust for one another, and they both had the same goals. They were very confident. They both wanted to pretty much go out and conquer the world, if you will. So the other thing is we used to kind of laugh and think about them as like an old married couple. They used to just, get in arguments all the time. And we later learned that they actually did that intentionally many times. The other one would take the side that the other one hadn't taken. And they did that because they felt like there was value in, if the other one felt that strongly about something, then they needed to really flesh it out. And so they did a lot of this back and forth. But that's a little bit about these guys. So on the vision, and starting off with the first point here, which this is the vision for Exstream Software and the software they wanted to build. I want to go back a moment to the PDR company that was the first of 3 companies. In fact, Chris actually worked with Davis and Dan at PDR, so he's been working with them a lot longer than I have even. But PDR came about in somewhere around the mid-'80s, and Chris can tell you a lot more about the story he won't tonight, but maybe another night over beers. He's got to go. But PDR, this is when PCs had really come to fruition, or were starting to bear their heads in the corporate world, and big companies were trying to figure out how to really use them most productively. And so what they did is help Fortune 500 companies. Some of their customers were John Deere, American Express, IBM, to figure out how to use these new tools for what they were really interested in was electronic document distribution. And so it was really a consulting company. And as they got into these companies, beyond just working with the PCs, they learned a lot about how these companies were creating and delivering their mission-critical documents to customers, like bills and invoices, or in the insurance industry. I mean, as you know, there's thousands of different documents and all the stuff that you get. So these documents were, and are today, right, I mean, critical. They have to be accurate. They have to be timely. You certainly don't want to miss getting a bill out, because you won't get paid if you don't get an invoice or a bill out.